Rick, thank you so much. That's very exciting. All that job creation is really something, and we certainly appreciate it. So one more hand for Rick. So my little buddy James is going to come up and join me. And we're going to talk about the Lifetime Achievement Awards. But Renee, I need you up here a minute, Renee. So Lifetime Achievement Awards, of course, are so very special. But we cannot begin those without talking about the moving force of nature that puts this conference together. If you've never worked with Renee, you don't know what sweat is. But we're so fortunate to have her as our executive director. And putting this conference together is quite challenging, all these things that move so well. She's behind that. So Renee, please come here.
She doesn't listen real well.
We're working on training. So Renee, just as a very small thank you for all you've done to get this conference going, please accept our thanks.
Oh my gosh. Wow, thank you so much. Well, that's beautiful, you guys. Wow.
And you deserve so very much more.
No, it's all the leadership, my board, all these people here. They make me go.
That's because we're afraid of you.
No. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So if you're not familiar with our Leaders and Legends Award, these are awarded by the Business Council of Douglas County and carefully selected by the Board of Directors. They're meant to honor individuals in the Douglas County community for lifetime achievements, leadership, integrity, and major contributions to the region's business, civic, or public sectors. Lifetime Achievement Awards are given not for a single project, but for sustained service and leadership over many years. Recognition of local influence, recipients are often people who have made significant impacts in Douglas County, in business, government, safety, health, or community development. Values are emphasized. Success, commitment, honor, and integrity are repeated themes on how the awards are described. So no one except the board on the selection committee knows who's getting these awards. So we do like to have an inside spy, if you will, to help us with these. And our first spy is the Honorable Judge Todd Young.
Well, thank you very much. I am delighted to be here. I'll tell you how delighted I am. I spent all morning with 12 lawyers in my courtroom, and I left them marking the first 700 exhibits for a trial that begins a week from today. Told them I'd be back by 2 o'clock, and I left them, and I am so delighted to be here. I am particularly delighted, though, to introduce the first recipient of this award. I don't know if you know how this exactly works, but they ask these recipients to prepare a brief biography to help the presenter. And I knew this stuff about this person I'm going to introduce, but she did exactly that. She put down just a couple of lines on a piece of paper, like her life really had not been a whole lot. And that's completely false. And so I'm going to make sure that you hear more than this. But she serves on the East Fork Fire Protection District. She is on the Board of Directors, District 2, from January of 2017 to now. She's been the president of that board. She's been the secretary of that Fire Protection District. She served on Douglas County grand juries. She was a volunteer with the court's CASA program, which is a program to help children who need a representative and an advocate in court. And she volunteered with that program for many years. She served as the Chief Deputy Clerk for Douglas County from 1973 to 1987, when she became the Clerk-Treasurer for Douglas County. She's been on legislative committees representing fiscal offices. She's been the president of the Nevada Association of Elected Clerks and Registrar of Voters. She's been the president of the County Fiscal Officers Association for the state of Nevada. She was appointed by then Secretary of State Dean Heller to serve on the Help America Voter Act Committee and served for several years. She was a founding member of the Sierra Nevada Republican Women, former member of the National Federation of Republican Women, and been in the Seroptimus International Club. She is a fourth-generation Nevadan, born in Minden, raised in Smith Valley. She attended UNR, and she's been a friend of mine for many years. This is Barbara Griffin, and I want to go beyond what Barbara wrote and explain what her service meant as Clerk-Treasurer. For attorneys, many of them don't understand it, but the most important people you have to deal with are not the judges and not the clients, but you have to work with the clerks throughout the state, wherever you represent people, all of the time. And it's sometimes difficult. But a professional clerk's office with professional clerks makes all the difference in the world, especially to a young attorney, or to those 12 attorneys who have more than 700 exhibits who are going to be in trial with me next week. That clerk's office is just vitally important. And one of the things that happened when Barbara was the clerk was that no one would approach the clerk's office and think that they were speaking to someone who was, quote, just a clerk, just a part of a system that really didn't matter, just a minion. When Barbara became the chief clerk for Douglas County, it became clear to everyone who dealt with the courts, everyone who dealt with the clerks, that that was a professional organization, that those clerks were professionals. They were to be respected and they were to be honored. That's how she treated her employees. And she was so important in raising up, and it was mostly young women who took that job, raising them up to understand that their role was important, that they were professionals, that their work was to be honored, and the fact that they were the ones doing that work was to be honored. She treated those people like equals, like professionals, and like people in the community who were to be respected and honored for what they did to serve their community. And that changed, in a large way, the culture of that office and how people had to deal with the court system. And an attorney who showed up at that window to file documents or to do whatever, who treated her clerks, her people, with anything less than that professional courtesy, dealt with Barbara. And you didn't want to do that. I will just in a very briefly will also tell you, Barbara, she did me the honor of serving as my campaign manager in a campaign I had some years ago. And there was an incident, we would sit around the table about every week with a group of people who were on that committee and talk about what we were doing or so. And I remember one evening as we sat around the table and people were kind of fired up because an opponent had put some things out that none of us really regarded as true, and how we were going to deal with that. And the people on that committee were professionals, they were respected, some of whom are in this room today. And people were fired up. Well, we need to do this. We need to respond. We need to run this ad. We need to run that ad. And Barbara sat there. And as the room went around and everyone had their say, and Barbara was quiet, and when everyone was done and feeling pretty good about what they had to say about this and what we were going to do, Barbara said, are you all done? Everybody goes, yeah. And they were smiling. They were pretty happy with themselves. And as Barbara would do, She clapped her hands and said, "We're not doing any of that. Here's what we're going to do." And it was, we're not going to respond. We're not going to react. All we're going to do is focus on positive. That's how we run this campaign. And that's who Barbara Griffin is. She is my dear friend. I respect and admire her. And I'd like to introduce her to you now. Barbara. Where is she hiding? There she is. Get on up here. This is about as fast as she talks, too, but every word's important.
Good afternoon. I am deeply honored and humbled, both for this organization and for the recognition and for Judge Young. I'm going to date myself a little bit. We already heard when I started. But I remember when a few businessmen came to the commissioners and said, "We're going to start a business council in Douglas County." And I remember thinking, well, that's an interesting concept. I wonder what that means. And they went away and they advertised, they put together some bylaws, and then they came to the commissioners and said, "We're going to introduce you to the individual we have hired." And they introduced Renee. She came up and was fiery, was spunky, and was full of enthusiasm. And I remember thinking, okay, she's young, she's a spitfire, and how are all of these old-timers going to handle Renee? We'll see how long this lasts. So Renee, how many years ago was that now? 25 years. And this organization truly is what it is today because of Renee. And they all need a leader. I've watched it grow. I've watched so many of you do so many things for our county, for our region, for the district. I always said I had the very best job in the county. I loved my job. Well, during that time, I had to work with over 60 county commissioners. So there were days that it was a little challenging. I had numerous judges. When I started, we actually shared a judge with Carson City. And every Friday afternoon, court was adjourned and they all went to the JT, the judge and the attorneys. And we always said that probably there were more cases solved at the JT than in the courtroom. Now we have two very professional judges, an incredible sheriff's office, incredible staff at the clerk's office. It was such an honor to serve my constituents. It's an honor to know so many of you, and I'm just very humbled. Thank you very much.